If you give me $10, I'll give you 20. Well, not everybody would take it because it sounds too good to be true. I'm Michael Wagner.
I am Larry Wagner.
And this is the story of Dimension Funding.
My father, Michael Wagner, his first big break came in 1971 when he went to work for Xerox.
It was a very, very long interview process. You almost had to beat down their door.
And in those days, Xerox was the only company in America that was doing copies on plain paper.
I would say it probably took 6 months to get that job. And I think what finally happened was they realized that this guy might be a good salesman because he won't leave me alone.
And that was his first big break into the corporate world.
And said, well, we've got this position, but it's not going to be in Denver.
It took us from Denver, Colorado to Rapid City, South Dakota, to Omaha, Nebraska, back to Denver, and then to Minnesota, and then back to Denver, and then eventually back to California.
My job was sales, and I had to grow the base. There was approximately 50 salesmen in the branch. My territory was about a third of the state of South Dakota, including Pierre, which is the state capital.
His job was to sell copy machines on Indian reservations.
It also included Wounded Knee Indian Reservation, which I'd never been on an Indian reservation before, but they were a user of Xerox equipment and supplies, so we called on them.
After he left Xerox, he founded a company called Copy Lease Corporation of America, which focused on the financing of the machines more so than the actual selling of the machines.
What that company had figured out was how to buy Xerox machines from Xerox, and we realized that we could charge less, provide Xerox service, and at the same time save that entity thousands of dollars per month. It was almost like if somebody was standing on the corner and saying, if you give me $10, I'll give you 20. Well, not everybody would take it because it sounds too good to be true. So I was living a great life out in California, driving a Mercedes-Benz, two-door Mercedes-Benz 450 SL, and I just joined a country club.
From that point on, he started a company called Telephone Rental Systems, where he began to finance telephone systems that he would also sell.
They were used to paying monthly for their telephone equipment to AT&T.
His company also had a distributorship for a telephone system called TIE Systems, which allowed businesses to acquire telephone systems without going through the telephone company.
So it was really an easy sale. And that's when I really got involved with learning about equipment leasing. I remember going to the John Wayne Airport, standing in a line for the plane, and a fellow in the line says to me, "Are you going up to the leasing convention?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he says, "Well, what are you looking for up there? Who do you want to meet? What are you going to do?" I said, "Oh, I really need some funding sources." He says to me, "Well, do you know Ken Studer over at Western Community Money Center in Fullerton?" I said, "No, I've never heard of him." He says, "Well, Ken's a good friend of mine." He says, "He'll fund all your deals."
That lasted a few years before he realized that there was more money in financing the telephone system. So Telephone Rental Systems then morphed into Dimension Funding in 1978.
I got a phone call one day from a gentleman by the name of Bob Cragen, and he introduced himself as a representative of Citicorp, which is part of Citibank, one of the biggest banks in America. Citicorp was starting a pilot program to fund paper for independent lessors like myself. And from that relationship, that really launched, Dimension Funding. Well, Larry came to me in, I think it was 1990, and he said, "Dad, I really want to go in the leasing business with you."
When I arrived in 1995, I started off as a sales rep
he says, well, what do I do when he got down there finally? I said, well, you got to call on vendors and you've got to call on potential lessees.
I worked as a salesman or a sales representative for a period of about 3 years, in which time I then transitioned myself into sales management.
At that point in time, that if he succeeded, that the company would be perpetuated due to his age and presence.
We're still in Irvine, California. We celebrated our 40th year anniversary. We have about 17 employees, and we consider ourselves a boutique finance source that caters specifically to the technology marketplace.
If you do this job well, you'll never have to have another job.